The boy had not meant to steal the horse. That was the truth, he whispered to himself as his small hands clutched the worn leather reins and the animal thundered through the frozen dawn. He was starving, alone, and the world had stopped offering mercy the day his mother was buried, beneath a crooked wooden cross outside Red Hollow. The plains stretched wide and unforgiving, painted in pale gold and dust. Wind cut through the boy's thin coat like a knife, but fear kept him upright in the saddle. He could still hear the echo of the stable door creaking open, the sharp intake of breath when the horse bolted free. He hadn't even known how to ride proper, just climbed on and prayed, because prayer was all an orphan had left. Red Hollow was the kind of frontier town that chewed up children like him. Once a silver stop, now a forgotten scar along the trail. Saloons outnumbered churches, graves outnumbered homes, and kindness was a currency few could afford. The boy's name was Eli. He was 11 years old, with eyes too old for his face and hands roughened by grief. His mother had died coughing blood into a rag by candlelight, apologizing with her final breath for leaving him behind. No father had stood at her side. No neighbors came when she passed. Only Eli, holding her hand as it grew cold. 2 days later, the landowner took their shack. By the third night, Eli was sleeping in the stable, trading small chores for scraps. But hunger does things to a child's mind. It whispers. It bargains. It lies. Just one ride, it said, just to get away. Behind him now, hooves pounded. Eli dared a glance back and felt his chest seize. A man was riding hard through the dust, coat flapping like a black banner. He sat his horse with the ease of someone born in a saddle, moving as if man and animal shared the same breath. A rifle was slung across his back. His hat brim shadowed his face, but Eli knew the look people got when they spoke this man's name. Silas Crow, outlaw gunman, ghost of the southern trails. Men said Silas Crow had buried more bodies than a prairie cemetery. They said he showed no mercy and never rode without blood following behind. Mothers used his name to scare children into obedience. Eli's heart pounded so hard it hurt. "I'm sorry," he whispered to the horse, to the wind, to anyone who might be listening. The ground ahead dipped sharply toward Dry Creek Ravine. Eli didn't know it had never ridden this far. The horse's ears pinned back, answering danger before the boy could. When the ravine appeared suddenly, the animal reared. Eli flew. The world turned white and silent. When he awoke, snow had begun to fall soft, quiet flakes settling into his hair. Pain screamed through his leg. The horse was gone. So was the town. So was hope. Boots crunched nearby. Eli tried to crawl, but strong hands stopped him. He squeezed his eyes shut, bracing for the end. Instead, a voice came low and rough, edged with surprise. "Well now, you're just a boy." Eli opened his eyes. Silas Crow knelt before him, close enough that Eli could see the lines carved deep into the man's face. This was no monster, just a man worn thin by years and regret. His eyes, dark and steady, flicked to the boy's twisted leg. "Didn't steal that horse for sport," Silas said. "Did you, son?" Eli swallowed. Tears burned his eyes, but he didn't let them fall. "My mama's dead," he said. "I was hungry." Something shifted in Silas Crow's expression just for a moment. A flicker of something long buried. He stood, scanning the empty plains, then sighed like a man carrying a weight too heavy to set down. "Reckon you picked the wrong horse," he muttered. Silas lifted Eli as if the boy weighed nothing and set him against a nearby boulder. From his saddlebag he pulled a strip of dried meat and pressed it into Eli's shaking hands. "Eat," he said, slow. Eli obeyed, watching the outlaw like a wounded animal watches fire, terrified, yet drawn to its warmth. As Silas bound the boy's leg with practiced care, Eli noticed something hanging from the man's neck. A small silver medallion, scratched, worn, the same shape his mother used to rub when she thought no one was watching. "Where'd you get that?" Eli asked softly. Silas froze. His hand tightened around the cloth. "Why?" he asked, voice suddenly sharp. "You recognize it?" Eli nodded. "My mama had one just like it. She said it belonged to a man who never came back." Silas Crow slowly lifted the medallion, staring at it as though seeing it for the first time in years. Snow fell heavier now, and in the silence between them, the outlaw realized the boy's age, his eyes, his voice all too familiar. Silas looked at Eli again, truly looked this time, and his breath caught in his throat. Because the orphan he'd chased across the plains was carrying a past Silas Crow had been running from for 11 long years, and the truth was about to tear them both apart. Silas Crow did not speak as he lifted Eli back into the saddle. The boy winced when his injured legs shifted, but he didn't cry out. He'd learned young that pain was quieter when you kept it to yourself. Silas noticed that. Noticed the way Eli clenched his jaw, the way his small hands held tight to the pommel like he'd been born to it. Too much like him. They rode beneath a sky the color of old steel, snow thickening as the miles slipped by. Silas kept one arm around the boy, steady and firm, guiding the horse toward the only place within reach before nightfall, an abandoned line shack tucked against the foothills. The world felt smaller somehow, pressed in by memory. 11 years. That was how long Silas had been running from Red Hollow, from the woman he'd loved once, from the night he'd ridden away believing he had no right to stay. Eli broke the silence. "You gonna turn me in?" the boy asked, voice thin but steady. Silas swallowed. "For stealing my horse, yes sir." Silas let out a breath that might have been a laugh once. "Son, if I turned in every hungry soul that took something to live, there'd be no one left but graves." Eli nodded, eyes on the horizon. The shack came into view just as daylight bled away. Inside, Silas built a fire with quick efficiency. The crackle of flames filled the hollow space, warming frozen fingers and wounded hearts alike. As Eli slept, Silas cleaned the boy's leg. It wasn't broken, but it was bad enough. Would take time. Care. Care was something Silas Crow had never been allowed to give. The medallion lay heavy against his chest. He turned it over slowly, thumb tracing the scratches etched into its surface. He remembered giving its twin to a woman with dark hair and stubborn eyes, promising her a life he had no business offering. "I'll come back," he had said. He never did. A sound at the door snapped him from his thoughts. 3 men stood outside, rifles low but ready. Their horses stamped impatiently in the snow. Bounty hunters. Silas rose slowly, hand drifting toward his gun. "Evenin' Crow," one of them called. "Heard you were ridin' north. Sheriff's paying double now." Silas stepped outside, closing the door behind him. "You boys picked the wrong night," he said calmly. The leader smiled thinly. "We always do." The first shot cracked the air. Snow burst from the ground near Silas's feet. He moved fast, too fast for a man with as many years on him as Silas Crow. The second man fell, The third ran. Silas stood alone in the quiet aftermath, breath clouding in the cold. Behind him, the shack door creaked open. Eli stood there, eyes wide, taking in the fallen man, the blood-staining white snow red. "You killed him," Eli whispered. Silas turned, pain in his gaze. "I tried not to." They buried the body before dawn. By morning, the truth could no longer stay buried. Eli sat by the fire, fingers curled. "My mama's name was Clara," he said suddenly. "She said my father was a good man who made bad choices." Silas closed his eyes. "She said he loved me, even if he never met me." The fire popped, sparks rising like stars. "What was his name?" Eli asked. Silas Crow knelt in front of the boy, heart pounding louder than gunfire ever had. "Silas," he said. "His name was Silas." Eli studied him for a long moment, then his face crumpled. "You left her," the boy said. "You left me." "Yes," Silas whispered. "I did." Tears slid silently down Eli's cheeks. He didn't scream, didn't strike out. That hurt worse. Outside, distant hooves echoed. More riders were coming. Silas reached for his gun and made a choice that would cost him everything. The sound of hooves grew louder with every passing second. Silas Crow stood in the doorway of the line shack, snow swirling round his boots, rifle heavy in his hands. Across the frozen plain, 5 riders crested the Rislaman this time. He recognized the lead horse, the red scarf at the rider's throat. "Sheriff Hale," Silas exhaled slowly. This was how it ended. He had always known it would. Behind him, Eli sat on the bedroll, clutching the tin cup with both hands. His eyes never left Silas's back. "They're here for you," the boy said. "Yes," Silas answered. "They are." Eli's voice shook. "You gonna run?" Silas turned and knelt so they were eye to eye. The firelight caught in his tired gaze, softening a face carved by regret. "I've run my whole life," he said gently. "Every mile I ever rode put more distance between me and what mattered. I ain't doing that anymore." Eli searched his face, as if trying to decide whether to believe him. Silas reached into his coat and pulled out the silver medallion. He pressed it into Eli's palm, closing the boy's fingers around it. "Your mama gave this to me the night I left," he said. "Told me to keep it till I was worth comin' back for." His voice faltered. "I wasn't." Eli swallowed hard. "She waited," he whispered. "She waited a long time." Silas nodded. "I know." The lawmen dismounted outside, boots crunching in the snow. Sheriff Hale's voice carried firm and calm. "Silas Crow, come out slow. No one needs to die today." Silas stood. He adjusted his coat, then reached down and tipped his hat toward Eli just a little, the way fathers did when they wanted their sons to feel strong. "Listen to me," Silas said. "When they take me, you're gonna ride with Sheriff Hale. He'll see you fed. Warm. You'll get a chance I never gave myself." Eli shook his head, tears finally spilling free. "You're my father." The words hit Silas harder than any bullet ever had. He stepped forward and wrapped the boy in his arms, holding him like he should have done 11 years ago. For a moment, the world went quiet. No guns, no past. Just a father and a son stitched together by loss. "I am," Silas whispered into Eli's hair. "And I'm so damn sorry it took me this long." Silas stepped outside with his hands raised. The lawmen tensed, rifles ready. Snow fell thick now, settling on shoulders and gun barrels alike. "It's over, Crow," Sheriff Hale said. Silas nodded. I know. As the cuffs closed around his wrists, a single gunshot rang out. The third bounty hunter, wounded but alive, had crawled back through the snow, desperation in his eyes. He fired wildly. Silas moved without thinking. He turned just enough for the bullet meant for the boy to strike his own chest. The world lurched. Silas fell to his knees. Eli screamed. Sheriff Hale fired once. The bounty hunter dropped. Silas lay in the snow, breath ragged, crimson spreading across his coat. Eli ran to him, collapsing at his side, pressing small hands against the wound. Don't, Silas murmured, voice fading. It's all right. You promised, Eli sobbed. You said you wouldn't run. Silas smiled weakly. I didn't. His gaze drifted to the gray sky above, snowflakes landing softly on his lashes. Tell them, he whispered. Tell them I stayed. Eli clutched the medallion against his chest, nodding through tears. I will. Silas Crow died with his son holding him, his past finally caught and forgiven. Spring came early that year. Eli rode into Red Hollow beside Sheriff Hale, thinner but straighter, somehow. The townsfolk watched quietly as the boy dismounted near the churchyard. A new grave stood beside a crooked wooden cross. Eli knelt, setting the medallion atop the fresh earth. He came back, the boy said softly. In the end, he came back. The wind stirred the grass. Somewhere far off, a horse whinnied. Eli grew up on a ranch north of town. He learned the land, learned patience, learned that a man is not measured by the miles he runs, but by the moment he finally stops. Years later, when folks spoke of Silas Crow, they no longer spoke only of blood and fear. They spoke of the outlaw who chose his son over his escape, and of the boy who learned that even the most broken men can find their way home, if only for one last righteous stand. The sun dipped low, painting the plains in gold, and for the first time in a long while, the West felt at peace.